Peace, Cleveland. We gotta talk. We gotta talk about East Cleveland and how it went from millionaires row to messed up. You got corrupt politicians, dirty cops, blocks and blocks of abandoned houses. Man, East Cleveland been in the news for all the wrong reasons as of late. And on this episode of In Cleveland with Cuz, we got to talk about how EC went from the top all the way down to the bottom and how it got so bad. Let's get into it. Before we start, make sure you like the video, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Now, for those of you, we got to start at the beginning of this thing so we can this is going to be 10 minutes and I'm going to be able to tell you exactly how we got here in terms of East Cleveland. So East Cleveland was originally part of what was called East Cleveland Township. This is one of the first areas that was actually settled in Cuyahoga County in the 1800s. And so in 1911, it was actually incorporated as a city and became East Cleveland, adjacent to the city of Cleveland. And in those early years and at the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, we had some of the most premier people, some of the wealthiest people that lived literally right in East Cleveland on Euclid. Euclid Avenue used to be called Millionaires Row. In the early 1900s, you had mansions, hundreds of mansions that lined the street Euclid Avenue that go right through EC. In that time, East Cleveland was majority white. It was actually European immigrants. So Irish, the Italians, Germans, Polish, those were primarily the people that was living in East Cleveland. And they was, working factory jobs, doing, just living like regular people. And then again, you had your tycoons that lived there, your Rockefeller, like that John D. Rockefeller literally lived in East Cleveland. As a matter of fact, John D. Rockefeller owned Forest Hill. He owned some like 700 and some acres, even the parts that go up into Cleveland Heights. His son, John Rockefeller Jr., ended up donating the portion that has become Forest Hill Park. So like one of the wealthiest families in the world, was right here in East Cleveland. You had other different titans. Remember, at this time, Cleveland is the spot to be as far as economically, because we got the industrial city. So you got all of the plants and the factories, and East Cleveland set right there on the railroad track. If you riding down Euclid, you could tell East Cleveland right there on the railroad track, making it easy to get in and out of Cleveland. So literally EC had it going on. Early on, education was a priority. Like this video if you went to Shaw. Shaw started out as Shaw Academy in the 1800s. It was a private school that eventually transitioned into a public school, becoming what we know now as Shaw High School. Let me know in the comments what year you graduated from Shaw. But over the years, early on, Shaw had built a strong reputation, for academics and mainly for music, which the marching band is still nationally known to this day. You got generations of families who graduated from Shaw, and so this was a cool place to be. You had jobs. Nela Park right up there at the top of the hill on Noble. This was like a world-renowned industrial park that ended up being the global headquarters for GE, the electric company, right in East Cleveland. So you had people that lived in East Cleveland that was able to work there. Other plants and U.S. Steel, LTV Steel, when the Huron Hospital was open. These are all very good jobs for people to have at that time. Stable jobs so they could afford homes, all that kind of stuff. This area was known for strong schools, nice neighborhoods where you could walk, and nice brick homes, businesses. Like, it was the kind of place where you would want to come buy a house and raise your family. Now, this is where things get a little tricky. Like the video if you haven't already. Like the video. You got the 1940s. So we fast forward up until the 1940s. And in the 1940s, if you know, this sort of coincides with the civil rights, the beginning of the civil rights and all that, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So in the 40s, we had what was called the Great Migration. This is when you had millions of black people from the South moving up to the North and out West. So again, the Great Migration. So people leaving Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and stuff like that, looking for better jobs, better housing, better neighborhoods, and stuff like that. So East Cleveland was very attractive. Ohio in general, but specifically East Cleveland was, of course, attractive because it had just that: affordable houses, jobs, decent schools. Like, this was a place where black families could come and actually buy property. But we know how it happens historically. As soon as the black families started moving in, the white families started moving out. This is called white flight. Right? So this wasn't like just a overtime process. This is like whole blocks of people would leave. And the reason why they were leaving is because banks and real estate agents started what became known to be as redlining, meaning they locked black families into certain areas and then basically cut off the resources. Banks wouldn't loan to black buyers outside of certain areas, basically, segregating by way of a loan. And so the agents would tell all of the white people, like, y'all better hurry up and sell, all these black people moving, y'all better hurry up and sell your houses for the values tank. So you have a whole block or two of people that's moving out. The banks will only lend in certain areas to certain degrees, so people aren't able to invest, people aren't able to do upgrades to their housing and stuff like that. Meanwhile, at the same time, you're losing a lot of your tax base. You losing residents. If you lose people, you lose tax revenue, and guess what starts to happen? Your neighborhoods start to go down. You have poor city services. I mean, and imagine these are black communities that are sustaining. Like, they cool. Again, they, things happen, but this is an area where a black middle class family is able to live and raise their kids and all that kind of stuff. And then you have all this stuff start to happen. Again, city services start slipping. The streets don't get plowed. The yards don't get cut. Potholes don't get fixed. You don't have officials that are actually representing the people, because now East Cleveland is predominantly black, but of course the government is predominantly white. You just have all of the infrastructure, all of this stuff starts to go bad. Then, as if we needed anything else, you have the 80s, the 1980s, and we all know what the 80s brought. The crack era hit. In the early 80s, crack cocaine hit East Cleveland like bombs over Baghdad. Like, on top of all of the other issues, now we start to have families that start to crumble, because people who were working regular jobs at the factories and stuff like that, they start getting strung out. Either they was getting strung out or they was selling. And during that time, they were giving crazy. The punishment for that was crazy. They was giving mandatory minimums and stuff. You get 5 years for 5 grams. So who that was, obviously affecting black people. So now you got, again, families broken up, people losing, not having these jobs, can't afford stuff anymore. Like, East Cleveland turned into, again, the city services are poor. So the city itself is looking poor. And then you have people that are struggling with drugs. I mean, like, serious struggles with drugs. Then you have people who, you got large areas of abandoned houses because people left. Then you start having the jobs that leave. So that the GE at Nela Park, they start downsizing in the 70s. And Huron Hospital closed in 2011. All of the steel mills shut down one by one. The auto plants. Everything just started to collide all at one time. A lot of the folks, the people who lived there who could afford to leave, they did. Once they saw it started going bad, the city went into financial distress multiple times. And then those people who stayed, many of them ended up stuck in old homes, in neighborhoods that have not had any investment, in communities where the city services are poor and non-existent. And then probably the straw that broke the camel's back was in 2008 when the foreclosure crisis hit. It hit everywhere, but I mean, it crushed East Cleveland. You had banks giving out bad loans, housing market collapse. East Cleveland was hit harder than almost any other city in the state of Ohio. You got, again, whole blocks of houses that were wiped out. People lost their homes. This is, again, an entrance of out of town landlords coming in, buying up the property super cheap, not doing anything with them. So now you got a bunch of abandoned homes. It seems like East Cleveland got the craziest bandos. Like, I mean, they bandos be looking like first 48 bandos. Like, you got those next to a house of somebody that's still, trying to make it and trying to take care of their house. And the city is flat broke. The city is bankrupt. Then, to make matters worse, you got corruption. Yo, the violent crime rate is like 4 or 5 times higher in East Cleveland. The cops, they not helping. They taking bribes, they abusing people, running scams. You know what it was, like 10 or 15 of them got indicted. Like, that's crazy to think about how rampant, like how corrupt that police, like, and then it goes up to the mayor. It's not just them. I can't remember the last time East Cleveland had a decent mayor. This last one that they just got up out of there, Brandon King, he got federally indicted for cheating. I mean, for stealing. See, that's the problem. Unfortunately, when you have challenge, like areas that are facing challenges like this, it makes it a breeding ground for people to come and take advantage, because it's like nobody cares, so nobody's looking. It's like, of all the places that you could steal from or be like skimming money, like, why would you East Cleveland? Like, they barely getting along. So, I mean, year after year, it's just been, new faces, same old games. Nobody has a plan, no progress made. Just losing people, the city looking run down. It's a mess, if you ask me. So I told you that just in that amount of time, we went through the whole history from the 1800s until 2025. And you can see, if you ride through East Cleveland, everything we just talked about, from the industrial stuff to Millionaires Road, it's still some of those mansions left from that. You know what I mean? You can see exactly what we're talking about and see how down through the years things have happened and things have gone unaddressed, and they just got progressively worse. So I want to know this, now that we laid it all out, what do y'all think? Is EC too far gone? Is there a way for it to come back? If you from EC, let me know in the comments what year you graduated from Shaw and what we can do to help turn East Cleveland around. Somebody call Ray Jr. We need some help around this. Until next time, cuz I'll see you in Cleveland. Peace. I'm from EC, better have a risk if you wanna be a